Welcome to the 2023 Seuss CP Conference, the Edge of Opportunity podcast from St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. The Southeastern United States Canadian Provinces, or Seuss CP Alliance, was established in 2007 to formally advance a common interest in enhancing economic ties between the two regions. The Alliance is a strategic trade and investment-focused partnership between 6 southeastern U.S. states and 6 Canadian provinces. This year's conference is focused on opportunities in the blue and green economies.
And welcome back to the Seuss CP 2023 podcast. I can tell you, there's a lot of cool things happening here. I'm Alan Dale. With me, as always, my good buddy, Jerry Carew. We are indeed Gale Force Winds. And I can tell you, collaboration, creativity, innovation, it's all happening in this room between industry, government, and academia. But our next guest is bringing a different lens to the conversation. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what you're up to?
Sure. So Michael Rubinoff, I'm a theater producer. I'm the originating producer of Come From Away. We've just opened a new production of Come From Away in Gander, Newfoundland. So it's been the dream since we started this to bring a new Newfoundland's own production, and that's happened. And we're here at the conference to share a little bit about this community, to share with this community a behind-the-scenes look at the show. We have a number of cast members from the original Broadway company, from the London's West End, some of our American friends. We're gonna do a couple of songs. It's always great to be in Newfoundland.
Well, what a wonderful thing that you're doing. Seuss CP, of course, that collaboration between Canadian provinces and our wonderful neighbors to the south. And what a great concept to bring the cast together, Come From Away, and showcase that amazing piece of work.
Yeah.
Tell me about finding that story and what that was like, because it is a very, very impactful piece of work.
Listen, as a theater producer, I mostly produce musicals, so I'm looking for really good stories to turn into musicals. And when 9/11 happened, the days following and the years following, obviously the story of what happened in Gander, Newfoundland, with 38 planes landing, 7,000 people showing up in a community of 9,000. When we started to learn in this, one of the darkest times in our modern history, this outpouring of humanity, this taking care of people, it made me so proud to be a Canadian. And two things you need for a musical. You need a compelling story, you need a compelling reason to musicalize it. Music is how Newfoundlanders tell stories. It's in their DNA. So I always believed if we could put those two elements together, this was the way to tell the story. A lot of people thought it was a really bad idea, but David Hein and Irene Sankoff, who I met after seeing another musical of theirs, pitched the idea. They said they were really interested in it. And they came out here on the 10th anniversary to interview people, and then we began to workshop and develop this show, and it's been a hit all around the world. It's been beyond the wildest of wild dreams.
I know. How did you go from all those no's to actually doing this? A lot of people you said it was a bad idea.
It was a terrible idea. I think people couldn't get past, obviously, the backdrop from the story. And I think a lot of people didn't know the story of what happened in Gander, Newfoundland. I mean, yes, a lot of people, Canadians may have heard this story, but I think the idea of turning that into a musical just didn't sound sand. In my heart, it was really about that humanity. It was really about exhibiting what I felt was the best of Canadians, what we want to strive for. Here's what these Newfoundlanders took on. Here's what they did. Didn't matter where you were from, sexual orientation, who you were, socioeconomic background. You needed help, you needed shelter, you needed food. They took care of you. And that story just didn't leave me. I stuck with it. I kept pitching it. And to be honest with you, I'm glad that I found David Hein and Irene Sankoff, because look at this piece. And it's their heart and empathy and desire to honor the people of Gander and the surrounding communities that has made it such a hit.
So performing in Gander now, how's that?
Oh, it's been amazing. So this is an all-new production directed by Gillian Kiley, who's an acclaimed Newfoundland director. So this was an opportunity to revisit it. All the Newfoundlanders are played by Newfoundlanders. We've brought friends from the US, London. There are alumni from the different companies around the world, all together to create something that is so special. I've obviously, seen Come From Away, from Australia to Canada to London and beyond. And to be in the theater, the Arts and Culture Center in Gander, even though it's a 400-seat theater, it sounds like thousands of people on their feet, roaring their appreciation. There's a different rhythm to the show. The jokes they respond to, the emotional moments they respond to. But what we loved hearing was, and we know so many Newfoundlanders came down to Broadway in Toronto, the Canadians that would see it would say, it makes me so proud to be a Canadian. It's so beautiful to be in that theater and hear Newfoundlanders say, this makes me so proud to be from Newfoundland and Labrador. It's just a beautiful sentiment. And, the whole purpose of this was to share this story with the world, to honor these acts. There's a lot of modesty. All we did was make some sandwiches. We don't know what the big deal is. And I'm glad so many people from the community get to see it, but we have had audience members from all over the world traveling to Newfoundland and Labrador, which is wonderful for tourism. Yeah. It's wonderful for hospitality, hotels. There's a buzz going on all over Gander and the surrounding communities, and that's a pretty wonderful thing.
You can feel the passion oozing out of you. It's fantastic. Yeah. Now, you've got another show in this part of the world.
That's right.
Well. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, Johnny Reed, award-winning singer-songwriter, just an amazing guy, so popular and so loved in this country, especially loved in this province in Eastern Canada, had an idea to honor his grandmother, an extraordinary woman. Well, I say extraordinary, but this is the thing. Ordinary, and the ordinary is extraordinary. In the 1950s, widowed with her, pregnant with her third son, and having to bring her children up in these turbulent times in Scotland when many people were leaving. And there was a community of women that were fiercely protective of their families, taking care of their families, that couldn't leave as they saw their children, for various different reasons, go off. And it's this beautiful slice of life, honoring the women of these community, honoring this wonderful music that's been created. The musical is called Maggie. We are on at the Confederation Center in Prince Edward Island, part of the Charlottetown Festival, and it's been a great joy to bring that to that island. So very busy out in this part of the world, which is bringing new musicals, which is wonderful.
Yeah, you're a guy from Toronto.
That's
right. You spend
a
lot of time in the East Coast.
Yeah, I do. It feels like home, I have to say.
You have a house here yet?
I'm looking. Trust me. If anyone's got something on the ocean, let me know. Okay. I am looking because it is so wonderful, and it is a homecoming. I truly feel. Being in Gander is always like coming home, and
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being on the podcast. Thank you very much for what you're doing to amplify these stories. Fantastic. And also sharing this tonight with our friends from Ontario East and our friends from down south.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be fantastic.
My pleasure. Thanks. Great to meet you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to the 2023 SUS CP Conference, the Edge of Opportunity podcast from St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. The 2024 conference is taking place in Biloxi, Mississippi, and we look forward to seeing you there.